Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and welcome to No Budget Reviews, the series where we go around the country finding cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and filming them with absolutely no money at all. So we have to use my phone, no microphones, no fancy DSLRs, nothing like that. Just good honest cars that you can buy for very little money and you can enjoy driving. Well, viewers, we have a real privilege today. Just near Salisbury, and I've come across this 1999 Renault Mégane Classic 1.6 RN Liberté with the very, very rare air conditioning option. The Renault Mégane Classic is just not a car that you see in this country really at all. It wasn't particularly common when it was new, and it certainly isn't now. This is owned by Mr. Jake Bill from the Wells Wills YouTube channel. His father actually bought this new in January 1999. The RN Liberté was a special edition, and this is quite an uncommon colour that they came in. This is a pre-facelift Mégane Classic. They were facelifted in April 99. So it's very, very late production, one of these. The Mégane stickers on the bumpers and on the wheel trims are actually an aftermarket edition. I don't think they detract from the car particularly. I think it looks alright. The RN version of the Mégane Classic, like most sort of Méganes at the time, was the bottom of the range, and so this is one above the bottom of the range, although it was quite a long lasting specialist. It lasted from, I think, May 98 to April 99, so just under a year. The car's done quite a high mileage actually, well over 100,000, and it was garaged for quite a lot of its life, although one of the common problems with the Mark 1 Mégane is this rear arch area. You would have seen on the channel quite recently on No Budget Reviews, we filmed a car belonging to Lloyd, which was a one that was a couple of years older than this, and it's an RN Paris special edition, which was even more basic than this. No colour key bumpers, no air conditioning, really nothing particularly, but they are quite reliable cars. The two areas of concern with the electrics, one of them I've been informed by Mr. Coleman, rubbish mechanic, who I often actually talk to before I come out and film cars, because he works on so many of mine, and as you can see, I've got one of mine here today. Says that the rear lights often go wrong on these. It's not an expensive or problem, well, it's not too complicated, but it's just a bit annoying really. The rear light wiring on the Mégane seems to fail, although apparently on this car it's been okay. Maybe it's just the hatchback ones. The other thing is the windscreen wiper motor tends to burn out. I don't know why, but that's what happens. We'll talk about the engine and problems with the engine in a little bit. I mean, there really aren't too many, but that's one of the things. But if we open up the driver's door here, Mr. Bill and his father actually came down today, but they've gone elsewhere because obviously we are socially distancing and all that sort of stuff. This car has no sun damage on this stitching portion of the seat, which means it's not been actually outside all of its life, whereas Jude's car, these were pretty much done. And actually the car that's done all this mileage, there really isn't much wear on the seat bolster. It's quite remarkable really. Being in the famous probably from new, it's really, really been quite beneficial for this. One of the things you'll notice straight away here is that we've got not only an aftermarket stereo in this car, but also an air conditioning button. Now this was an optional extra in this car, it wasn't standard, and this is why this is a Liberté AC. One difference straight away from the earlier car as well is that these stalks are actually different. So the horn is on the end of there. I'm not going to sound the horn particularly, you don't need to do that. Whereas on an earlier car it's on there. Still got the very basic instrument panel though, and no rev counter or anything like that. I've still got blank switches. but it's a little bit more luxury, and I do like the comfort of the seat. It's very squashy, and I imagine the ride will be a little bit squashy on this car as well. If we just turn the key, see if that central display actually works in this car, because Jude's one it didn't. Let's just close the door. There we go. Look, it actually works, and actually got a heating as well. It's very nice. It is a bit nippy today, and yes, 156,000 miles in the same family. What a wonderful car. Just turn that off for a second. I don't get too much fan noise. So sort of green plastic in here, which is worn quite well. The door card is very slightly baggy, but it's really not too bad. That one's absolutely fine. So the interior is really, for one of these, is in quite good condition. Very reminiscent, of course, on a Mark I Renault Scenic, because it was called Mégane Scenic originally, and they're just really similar. Lots and lots of space for all kinds of things, and sunglasses and little friends, which is a science centre. Open up the glove box. Now, I'm not going to do a secret mission document test on this because Mr. Bill's already done it, and his video that actually we had on the channel when we wanted to showcase a couple of other viewers' cars recently. He did actually send me a video of this, and we put it on the channel as well. I've been wanting to film this for a really long time, actually, probably about 10 months at least. So all this oddment storage in there, it's quite well kind of sort of used. You know, this car is used on quite a frequent basis. It doesn't just sit around as much. One thing I would like is probably a sunroof in this car. I think that would be nice, but the headlining feels quite good. Certainly it's better than, you know, some interiors of Renaults I've seen. The Renault 5 that I filmed for No Budget Reviews last year was much more sort of basic feeling than this is. Of course, you've got the steering wheel controls as well. So we get into the back. I think Mr. Bill has been driving, so it might be a little bit tight for me. Let's put those over there. Let's put some extra speakers in here, because I don't think the original stereo was particularly good when this car was new in 1999. Yeah, if I move the seat forward a little bit, for me, it'll be okay. Headroom is absolutely fine. There's actually quite a lot of it. Again, just really soft, squishy French seats. Only one ashtray, which is weird. Don't know why the left passenger gets one, presumably if you want to use it as a limousine, which you could do, I suppose. If you got one of the higher end models, you could use these as a limousine. But yes, you know, the classic kind of 1990s vacuum formed or molded plastic, I think that's a term for it. But it's quite a kind of light colour in this car. It's not too dark, and also the windows are rather large. I'll just shut the door. It doesn't really feel that sort of claustrophobic in it. It feels fine. I mean, you could, you know, start up your own taxi business if you wanted to. And one of the things you'd want to do, if you had your own taxi business and you were using one of these Mégane Classics, would be you want to use the boot. If I just climb out here. So the seat folding is done in here. You have to move the base first. I'm not going to fold the seats, but just showing you that they do actually fold. And we come to really the reason why you would actually want to buy one of these cars in the first place is the enormous boot. Look at this. It's like a cavern. It's absolutely huge. There's the I think it's a subwoofer or something that way. The amount of stuff you can fit in here is crazy. I mean, the hatchback's not small, but this is just vast. Absolutely vast. I mean, obviously a Scenic's even better, but it's one of the things that would attract somebody most. Is the boot's even bigger than my 45, which isn't small. Original supplying dealer was Walker Renault of Stourbridge, which is what has a Birmingham plate on it as well. Right, I think it's time to have a look at the engine. What I think is interesting in here is there's sort of like a strut brace in the engine bay. I don't know if that's standard or not, but that's just interesting. It looks like it is standard actually. This is a 1.6 litre engine. It's sort of the Energy or Energie engine family. The one thing that does go wrong with these, apart from having to change the cam belt in them, is the cam cover gasket weeps, which is a very common problem with a lot of cars of this era, particularly Things like Renault K series engine, Honda D series engine, Suzuki engines, Mazda engines, they all do it. Not a serious problem, but it's just something to be aware of. And it's very, very, very accessible in here. There's really not a lot in here in comparison with a more modern car. I mean, I can see the gearbox, it's just down there. For some reason, the rocker cover on this is different from the 1.4 that Jude's car had, although they are the same family of engine. It does not say energy on it, but they are related. They've got different codes and things. And there's the oil filter as well. Not difficult, really. Mr. Bill himself has done a lot of work on this car on the Walsworth channel if you want to see it. But there we are. I think it's time to go for a drive. Well, fortunately we've got issues with the light again. For some reason it's a little bit dark in this interior. I don't know why that is, and sometimes the light streams through, but we are on the way anyway. Just come out of the entrance to this car park. Lovely day anyway. So this does feel clearly very similar to the car that we had on the channel earlier this month. A little bit more power though. The base engine in this was this very one. It's a .6 litre 8-valve engine with 90 horsepower. Above that initially in the range was a 2 litre 115 horsepower, also an 8-valve unit. Now they began in other body styles, so there obviously was the Scenic and there was the Coupe and the Cabriolet, in addition to the standard 5-door. Had other types of engines used, but in this particular car those were the two petrol engines for the pre-facelift ones. Honestly, I do apologise for the lighting. There's not an awful lot I can do about that, unfortunately. When the facelift came in 1999, the 1.68 valve and 2 litre 8-valve engines were dropped, and instead there was a 1.4 litre with 95 horsepower, so smaller capacity but more power than this one. Then there was a 1.6 litre 16 valve, that 110 horsepower. Top of the range with the facelifted cars was a 1.8 with 120 horsepower. There were also some diesels, but as usual we don't talk about those on this channel. Better, that's a lot better. The angle's better, and also I've done the window up a little bit, so there's probably this audio is slightly better as well. To drive this car is just, it's quite easy, it's very soft. The gear change is quite a long throw on this. But considering this car's done 156,000 miles, it actually feels okay. It's obviously been very, very well maintained over the course of its life. Steering is quite light but quite responsive. The road surface around here isn't actually that great, but it's dealing with it really well. There's actually to be too many sort of bumps and jolts and things. The seats are quite comfortable, but it's just so soft. Everything about this car is really soft and typical of the French car of the era. I can see why people really used to like these. One thing I am missing is a rev counter, but you know, that's just the way it goes when you try the base model car from this area. There's necessarily expect to get one of those. There were various trim options with this car. The pre-facelift ones were quite different from the post-facelift actually. For some reason post-facelift Mégane Classic, or generally most of the Méganes, they decided that it was a good idea to actually organise them into what are called collections. So, what was it? Oh, there's some patrol there, that's interesting. So, with the pre-facelift cars, there was RN, RT, Alize, and then the top one was an RXE. Obviously there were special editions as well, like the Liberté. Post-facelift models, Expression, Privilège, Alize, Expression Plus, and Privilège Plus. Relatively kind of simple trim structure, but there were, you know, a number of variants, obviously, you know, with the forbidden fuel engines and 3 engines post-facelift. There were numerous kind of combinations of things. Personally, I'd go for the absolute top of the range if I could, which would be an RXE or a Privilège Plus. That's just a way that I feel about these things. The thing I'm aware of when driving this car and using this really long throw gear change is how torquey the engine is. It's only got 90 horsepower, but there's lots of torque low down because this is an 8-valve engine. It's not the most refined engine I've ever heard. It is an overhead cam one, so it's not like the old Cléon Font engine that was used in some versions of the Renault 19, which was this car's immediate predecessor. But it seems to have just a lot of character. It's got that same kind of soft ride that characterises a Renault 5, and a similar type of gear change as well. It's just very easy to sort of think that lots of people just didn't want the sort of firmer ride of a lot of these cars' competitors, such as things like the Volkswagen Bora, the Rover 400 Saloon, and the Ford Focus Saloon, which would have been a little bit further than this. It's just a very relaxed experience. It's not hurried or anything. I was speaking earlier to Mr. Bill's father, and he said that he used to drive 200 miles without stopping or whatever, you know, back in the day in this car, and I can understand how that might be possible. Just a very, very nice, relaxed car. Probably these days a sort of classic daily to fit everything in. Really quite charming. So viewers, the pre-facelift Renault Mégane Classic Mark 1, should you consider one of these? Well, we've covered, I think, at quite some length over the past few weeks the possible advantages and disadvantages of these early Méganes, and I'm quite taken by this car. I think I would have a more luxurious variant than this, but there's just something about this kind of rare survivor that's been in the family since new, but is really, really endearing. There's nothing else just quite like this. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more episodes of No Budget Reviews. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Click the notification bell to be informed of new videos. If you haven't seen the video we did of Jude's Mark 1 Mégane, but I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and also that's where you'll find my social media links. Thank you.